The mystery of coincidence and synchronicity, well, I'm going to tell you right now, is Jesus Christ flirting with you. But let's go into this, what scientists believe. Has it ever happened to you that the same number keeps appearing in front of you for a period of time? Or hum a song and turn on the radio to listen to it? The Mystery of Chance by Peter A. Jordan. One could think that some supernatural cause is hidden behind these coincidences, or even dreams that come true. But the majority of modern scientists speak simply of ignorance of the natural laws that cause them, a creation of events out of what might happen, nothing strange or mystical. On the contrary, coincidences are considered inevitable by statisticians. For example, the probability that a deck of 52 cards will deal a particular 13 is equal for each possible 13, and all of them are equally possible, however improbable they may seem to us at first sight. The probability of splitting the 13 of 13 checkers is exactly the same as the probability of splitting any other 13. But a surprising story brings us back to the question of whether there is luck or not. Mathematician Warner Weaver mentions it in his book Lady Luck, The Theory of Probability, from where it was also published in Life magazine. On March 1st, 1950, all 15 members of the Beatrice, Nebraska church choir were late for their 7:20 rehearsal appointment. Everyone had some serious but common reason for being late. At 7:25, the church was destroyed by an explosion. The choir members considered the event to be divine intervention. Weaver put the odds of such a mass delay event occurring at 1 in a million. So how do we explain such purposeful coincidences? But it's worth mentioning here that the theory of psychology, the psychologist Carl Jung, who formulated the principle of simultaneity that connects events which are not connected by any obvious causal relationship. In his work, Structure and Dynamics of the Psyche, he mentions how he began to notice coincidences that openly challenged probability calculations during his investigations into the collective unconscious. For example, as a young patient described to him a dream in which she was given a golden scarab, an insect entered the dark room. When Jung caught it, he found it to be a scarab beetle, the closest thing to a golden scarab that could be found in the area, which is not used to going into dark places. Instead, it moved in the daylight, and it came in at the right time. Who caused the coincidence, Jung or his patient? The psychoanalyst Nador Fudor noticed, however, that the patient had an overly rational behavior that made her psychologically inaccessible. After the appearance of the scarab, her behavior improved and the sessions became more effective. Jung believed that the phenomenon of synchronicity was associated with mental states that developed through an influence of archetypes, which he defined as patterns innate in the human psyche and common to all humanity. Jung often refers to archetypes as primordial images and provide a representation of all human attitude towards death, conflict, sex, reincarnation, and mystical experience. Sometimes an archetype is activated by an emotionally charged event, and that tends to attract the events of similar nature, given way to the events we call coincidences. And Jung also accepted the existence of a strange interdependence of the objective elements with each other, as well as with the subjective mental states of the observer. In fact, he identified examples of the interdependence, which he considered inextricably linked to the concept of simultaneity, both in his psychiatric studies and in his research on esoteric practices. Thus, he regarded the Chinese divination method of the I Ching as an expression of the principle of simultaneity. He believed that what we in the West consider to be the main interests of Chinese thought, while what we worship as causation goes almost unnoticed. While Western thought carefully weighs, selects, and sorts and isolates, Chinese, a more holistic view of the world, given importance to even the smallest details that make up a moment. Every moment is made up of all these insignificant ingredients. Later, Jung extended the concept of synchronicity to astrology as well, when he even mentioned his interest in astrology and his belief in its future usefulness in a letter to Freud. The latter reacted by accusing Jung of falling victim to the black tide of the occult mud. And not giving up on his positions, Jung recorded in his memoirs another shocking event of the appearance of synchronicity, which actually happened while he was with Freud. They were standing together next to a book house when Jung felt his diaphragm become like an iron and burning him and glowing. At the same time, there was a loud crash as if the bookcase was about to fall on them. Jung looked at the opportunity to present the event as an example of the catalytic externalization phenomenon. Freud reacted by calling these nonsense, and Jung then challenged him, claiming that he could predict that in a minute at most, the banging would be heard again. Before he could even finish his words, the bang rang out again, leaving Freud startled. As his ally in the effort to formulate the theory of simultaneity, Jung found quantum physics, in the context of which the theory had been formulated that a field of space can be objectively known only with the existence of an observer, who, however, intervenes necessarily by his presence in the state of space. These discoveries helped Jung intuitively understand the matter and consciousness are intrinsically connected. Matter and consciousness are connected as two complementary aspects of a unified reality. But long before Jung, other intellectuals and scientists had formulated positions that interactively connected matter and consciousness. Historian Arthur Koestler spoke of the capacity of the human soul as, quote, a cosmic resonator, end quote. Similar views were held by Kepler and Pico della Mirandola. Koestler also writes in his book The Roots of Coincidence about a fundamental unity of things that transcends mechanical causality. The concept of a spiritual microcosm that reflected universal patterns and which Leibniz called a unit was based on the idea that the individual and the universe interact because of a pre-established harmony. But also for Schopenhauer, everything was interdependent and synchronized in a similar way. Koestler gave examples of integration and interaction within the evolution of science itself, as the various fields of physics were combined or merged over the course of the last century. For example, electricity and magnetism were merged into electromagnetic theory, while EM waves were associated with a range of phenomena, including light, color, thermal radiation, and radio waves. Chemistry was embraced by atomic physics. Control of the body by nerves and glands was linked to the electrochemical processes, while atoms are divided into the building blocks of protons, electrons, and neutrons. Later, all these fundamental practices were brought together in the concept of simple packets of concentrated energy. Today, more and more ecologists and scientists are leaning towards this view that there is an interdependence that connects everything in the world, in a similar way that the ancients spoke of the sympathy of life. At the same time, at the University of Austin, Texas, Nobel laureate physicist Ilya Progogin is studying how chemicals and their structures develop patterns out of chaos. Carl Pribram, a neuroscientist at Stanford University, proposed the theory that the brain is a kind of a hologram, a pattern of frequency analyzer that creates hard reality by interpreting frequencies from a dimensional beyond space and time. In other words, the physical world we know is isomorphic, that is, similar to the processes of the human brain. So perhaps an alliance of quantum physics, neurologists, parapsychologists, and mystics will give us a new and different picture of the universe, non-causal but sympathetic, functional, more like a great thought than a great machine, unifying matter, energy, and consciousness. Only then might paranormal phenomena be freed from the stigma of cultism and not treated as disturbing. And in this context, our perceptions in our world will change forever. Please leave your comments and thank you for your support. Please support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.